He was a tactician in his own right, masterful in his ability to see skill where others could not.
When you talk about the Steelers, it's hard to write their history without Bill Nunn being a big part of it.
It was Bill Nunn's foresight that helped transform the Steelers from a blank canvas into a perennial powerhouse.
He just had that knack of putting people together and made our team better.
Bill Nunn was a key component in the Steelers being world champions 4 times during the 70s.
Before their 1970s dominance, the Steelers were an NFL laughingstock, a franchise with only 7 winning seasons in more than 30 years. But that began to change in 1967 when they hired a local sports writer with connections to black colleges as a part-time scout.
Pittsburgh Courier was a black newspaper here in Pittsburgh, and they were covering these colleges, these HBCUs, so he knew about players.
Bill put together the Black College All-American team for the Pittsburgh Courier, which was a national publication at that time. And he had great knowledge of the historically black colleges and university football programs, and that's how he picked that team.
And Bill brought a connection to the small black colleges and universities that in those days NFL teams weren't paying a lot of attention to, and it'd be pretty hard to compare them to anybody else at that point in time.
Initially, Bill Nunn's relationship with the Steelers was a critic. He was criticizing the team for not having black players, and we cannot forget Dan Rooney. Mr. Rooney said, well, you're so much of an expert, come on over and scout and get some players.
After 2 years as a part-time scout, Nunn became a full-time staffer in 1969. The same year, Pittsburgh hired head coach Chuck Noll.
From the stories that Bill told me, some of the scouts weren't very comfortable of going into those schools, the historically black colleges, scouting players. They didn't always think that they would have access to them.
From 1969 to 1975, the Steelers drafted 24 players from HBCUs, the most in the NFL. 5 players from those schools, Mel Blount, Elsie Greenwood, Ernie Holmes, John Stallworth, and the undrafted Donnie Shell, became pillars of 4 Super Bowl teams in the 70s. A keen eye for talent is one thing, but Nunn also needed to be crafty. That's how the Steelers managed to select future Hall of Famer John Stallworth out of Alabama A&M in the 4th round of the 1974 NFL Draft.
Bill went into the Stalls College and he confiscated the only film that they had, and no one else had an opportunity to see John, but he obviously had first-round talent.
Things panned out well. Had they not, I might have had a gripe with it. Maybe 4 Super Bowls is not a part of my time in the NFL had it not been for Bill Nunn.
Even in semi-retirement, until his final days, Nunn's focus was on scouting, teaching, and mentoring those in the Steelers organization. 2 days before the 2014 NFL Draft, Nunn died from complications of a stroke. He was 89. For the first time in 6 decades, the original bridge between HBCU players and the NFL was gone.
My first day on the job, when I meet Bill Nunn, he walks up to me, he says, "I know you. Your dad was on my All-American team in '67. That shows you the impact of Bill Nunn, not only in terms of the scouting, but creating a mechanism of recognition for these players. They knew that meant that they were on the radar and they would have an opportunity to pursue their dreams.
You have the Bill Nunn draft room. When was that decided?
We were trying to think of an appropriate way to honor Bill and keep him, before us every day. It's a daily reminder. Remember the people that built this room, built this organization, and let's do our best to try to emulate what they did. Once he was gone, it was, wow, we were just in the midst of a great man.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.